Guys, on today's installment of PJ Cook's Sexy Food, I'm going to show you how to make another one of my favorite desserts. We're going to be making a pear
So the
galette.
ingredients for our pear galette is as follows. We need 1 3/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour, 1/3 of a cup of granulated sugar, 1/4 of a cup of coarse ground cornmeal, 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, 1 stick of butter that is cold and cut into small pieces. We need 1/3 of a cup of buttermilk, 1/4 of a cup of apricot preserves that we've heated and melted. We need 2 pears that we're going to thinly slice, 1 egg that we're going to lightly beaten, and 2 tablespoons of turbinado sugar.
To begin, in the bowl of our stand mixer, we are going to combine our flour, our salt, sugar, and cornmeal. We're going to clamp on the lid, and we're going to give this a pulse 2 or 3 times just till everything is combined. Okay, so our flour, our cornmeal, our salt, and our sugar have been well combined. Next thing we want to do is we want to add in our chilled butter. And we want to pulse this a few times just until we get a coarse meal. Pulse this a few times, and as you can see, we have a coarse meal. You can see the big pieces of butter still in our flour and cornmeal. Now we want to put the lid back on. We want to turn our processor on high, remove the feed tube, and we're going to add in our buttermilk. We're going to do this until a ball of dough forms. So as you can see, we have created a ball of dough. What we're going to do is we're going to turn this out onto a piece of plastic wrap. Now we're just going to push the dough together. I'm going to wrap this in the plastic wrap, and we're going to shape it into a disc. So I went ahead and I finished wrapping up our dough in plastic wrap. Now I'm going to pop this in the refrigerator for about 45 minutes. So we have our pears, and what we want to do first is we want to slice our pear right down the center. And we want to remove the flower end, the stem end, and the core. I like using a little measuring spoon. It's just perfect to go in there and just give it a little twist. Take out the flower end and remove the stem end. See how quick and easy that happened? And we can do that to the other one as well, the other half. Perfect. Now we just want to thinly slice our pears. And we're going to do this so this way we can have our pears perfectly sliced to put on our galette. And we're going to fan them out in a pinwheel pattern. So to slice our pears, I'm going to lay them down on their flat side. I'm just going to go straight down and just thinly slice them. The thinner the better, because the faster they'll cook and the better it'll look in our finished product. Just take your time, don't rush. Remember, we have our dough resting. We have to wait 45 minutes for that anyway, so just keep going, slice these thin. And I'm going to go ahead and slice the rest of these pears. So our dough's rested for about 45 minutes. Now I'm going to go ahead and roll our dough out into a 15-inch disc. See, it starts to like crack apart at the edges. You can just go ahead and just push it together. This way it stays nice and even around. If at any time you feel like your dough is getting a little too sticky or it's starting to get a little too warm, you can just cover it with another piece of parchment paper, roll it up gently, and pop it into the refrigerator for a few minutes just for it to chill up a little bit more. Just like that. So I finished rolling out our pastry dough. You can see it's not a perfect circle, and I transferred it on the parchment paper to our baking sheet. First thing we want to do is we want to take half of that apricot jam that we heated up just so it was nice and fluid, and we want to spread this on the bottom of our dough. I'm going to go about 2 inches from the edges all around. Just like that. Perfect. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to start arranging our pears on the dough. To arrange our pears, what we want to do is we want to start on the outside from 2 inches from the edge. And we are going to start to place our pears and want to slightly overlap them. We're going to create a beautiful spoke or pinwheel design all the way around our tart or our galette. And when you get to the smaller pieces like this, you want to save those. We're going to use those on the inner part of our galette. So I'm going to continue laying our pears down, and I'll be back in a moment to show you how it looks when it's all completed. I went around in concentric circles, as you can see how pretty this looks. Now I'm just going in, giving it a little pat down with my hands, make sure all the fruit is in place. Nothing is going to move. I'm going to take the rest of our heated up jam, and I'm just going to lightly brush the top. You don't need to put too much on here, it's going to melt into it anyway. I'm going to go ahead and brush the top of the entire tart. Brush the tops of all the pears. Now what we're going to do is we are going to, starting at the edge, we're going to fold our dough up and over the pears. And when we get to a crease, we're going to fold it, and we're going to give it a little crease and fold over. I'm going to use the parchment paper to help us as we go. So get to the edge, crease, and fold over. Get to the edge, crease, and fold over. And we do this all the way around the galette. Using the parchment paper to work for you just makes it so much easier. Now you can see we have a beautiful tart. The edges are all nicely creased over. Now we're going to take our egg wash, our lightly beaten egg that we have earlier. I'm just going to brush it over the edges of our dough that we have all around the sides. And lastly, we're going to grab that sugar, either the demerara or the turbinado sugar. We're just going to sprinkle it on the top of the crust all around the edges. That's going to create a nice crunch to this crust. It's going to look beautifully golden brown. It's going to be delicious. Now we can take a sprinkling of the sugar and we can sprinkle it right over the top of our pears. Okay, with that being said, now we're going to take this, we're going to pop this into our 350 degree preheated oven for about 45 minutes till it's beautifully golden and the pears are nice and soft. So I've just taken the galette out of the oven. It's been in there for about 40 minutes now. You can see how beautifully golden the edges are, how the pears look nice and soft. Now we have to let this cool for at least 30 minutes to an hour before we can dig in and enjoy. So our galette has been resting for 30 minutes. You can see how beautiful this dessert is, how easy it was to make, that anybody can make this at home. You don't have to use pears. I've made this with peaches, I made it with plums, with apricots. You can make this with any type of fruit that you have handy that you would make into a pie or something that you can work with. So I hope you enjoyed this recipe. I hope you try it at home, and thank you for joining. See you next time on PJ Cooks Sexy Food.